Welcome back, guys. Today we're going to continue our college football predictions with Week 12. Last week I went 17-8, total season record 187-78, and we only have just 3 more weeks left in the college football regular season until we get to the championship week, playoffs, postseason, you name it. And before we begin, I'm just going to start off by saying I will not be predicting the Penn State at Purdue game because let's be real, we all know Penn State's going to win. And I don't want this video to be longer than what it already is. So let's start off with UCLA taking on the Washington Huskies. UCLA, winners of 3 straight, picking up a big Friday night win over Iowa. But after Washington, same can be said for them as they dropped one, I believe, against Maryland. They did lost last week, I know that for sure. I think they lost to Maryland. But anyway, this will be another Friday night game. Washington is favored by 3.5 points. This one can go in any direction now that UCLA has figured it out or slowly beginning to figure things out. I'm just going to lead towards the home team, Washington, to win this game. But I do expect this to be a very, very close matchup. And next, we have two teams desperately looking for wins. We have the University of Houston taking on Arizona. But at least positive things are happening with Houston. As last time we saw them, they picked up a huge win over a ranked Kansas State team. Arizona, yeah, they looked pretty horrible against UCF. If they lose one more game, bowl game is a bowl game is out of their cycle. So looking at this game, they're giving Arizona 1 point in this one. So tight matchup. It's going to be very close. I'm going to give the slight edge to Arizona because I trust them just a little more than I do with Houston, especially when it comes to the passing game. And now we have the University of Texas Longhorns taking on the Arkansas Razorbacks. Texas picked up an easy win over Florida. Granted, Florida had some injuries, but Texas came. They did what they had to do. And Arkansas, they had a bye week last week. But last time we saw them, they didn't really put up a good showing. Now this game, this is an old rival. I feel like it's an old rivalry game in the past. But the way I'm seeing it, yeah, right now Texas is the best team in the SEC as of right now. I'm gonna go ahead and give them the win. But for Arkansas, I hopefully they make a nice little battle. And then we have Utah taking on Colorado. And Utah losing to BYU in the Holy War, in which there was some controversy involving that game. And as for the University of Colorado, they got off to a little slow start against Texas Tech, but they was able to get the win and get the job done. And right now, they do have a quiet path to the very chaotic Big 12 title game. And with this game being played in Colorado being double-digit favorites, yeah, I'm going to go with Colorado to win. And now we have the Ohio State Buckeyes taking on the Northwestern Wildcats. And this game will not be played at their practice facility, but in Wrigley Field in Chicago. Ohio State, a shutout win over Purdue. It was so bad, it broke Gus Johnson. Northwestern, they had a bye week, but last time we saw them, they beat Purdue in overtime. 28-point favorites. Come on now. Ohio State shouldn't have a problem with this one. And now we have an interesting ACC matchup between the Clemson Tigers and the Pitt Panthers. And in my opinion, this will be a true elimination game. For Clemson, they did bounce back against Virginia Tech on the road. And again, they overcame a pretty slow start in doing that. And for Pitt, they lost their second game in a row, this time to Virginia. And Virginia's no slouch, but it's kind of telling that the glimmer of the the light is beginning to dim on a surprise Cinderella season for Pitt. This game, Clemson's favored by 10 points, although the last time Clemson played Pitt in this building, they lost. So I will not count out Pitt in this one, but I'm going to go ahead and roll with Clemson to win. But I do expect this one to be very, very close. And now we have Michigan State taking on Illinois. And both teams, from what I'm recalling, had bye weeks. And they did do that. And I don't know what they did last time we saw them. Well, I actually know that Illinois, last time I saw them, they lost to Minnesota at home. And for Michigan State, they actually lost too, but I can't remember who beat them. And with Illinois being 2.5 favorites at home, this will be the perfect rebound game for them because ever since that Michigan game, Illinois has not been the same. And now we have Syracuse taking on California. Syracuse, tough road loss to Boston College, but for California, congratulations. They pick up their first ever ACC win on a Friday night against Wake Forest on the road. It's like, where this been all season? And with this game being played in California and Syracuse, the long travel trip, I am going to go with Cal to pick up their second conference win in their career, in their short term in the ACC. And this will probably put them in bowl game eligibility territory. And now we have two teams that feel like they're heading in downward trajectories. We have the LSU Tigers taking on the Florida Gators. And for LSU, they didn't even show up against Alabama. They got ran over single-handedly by Jalen Milroe. And as for Florida, they got gashed by Texas, but they actually have an excuse of their offense being injured to all hell and back. And in this one, they are going to give LSU the favorite. I'll pick LSU. I'm going to go ahead and take them odds. But I think Florida could make this a bit of a game. I'm just going to keep that in mind. And then we have Virginia Cavaliers taking on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Virginia picking up a huge road win over a ranked Pitt team. In Notre Dame, they beat up on Florida State, but at this point, Florida State has checked out of the season. I don't even know if I'm going to do another prediction involving that team this year anyway. And yeah, Notre Dame, again, they had a clear path to the playoffs. They're going to get the win. And it goes to show you that whatever they did back in week 2 when they lost to Northern Illinois, it doesn't matter. And we have Louisville taking on the Stanford Cardinals. Louisville had a bye week last week, but last time we saw them, picked up a statement road win at Clemson. Stanford, right now, they're currently the doormat of the ACC. And Louisville will definitely emphasize that when they play. And now we have more ACC games. Boston College taking on SMU. Boston College picking up pretty much a season-saving victory over Syracuse. They look like what they looked like in September in that game. And SMU, they had a bye week last week, but last time we saw them, they not only beat Pitt, they destroyed them. And hey, they're still unbeaten in ACC play. And they don't have a lot of games left, so they could possibly clinch a spot in Charlotte this week. I might be overblowing it. It might be next week, but they do have a clear path to the ACC title game. I'll give them that. And I think games like Boston College will emphasize that, as I'm going to roll with the Mustangs getting the win over BC. And now we have Baylor taking on West Virginia. And these two teams, I don't know what to think about either one of them. I mean, Baylor, yes, last time we saw them, they picked up a win over TCU. In West Virginia, I mean, they have decent wins here and there, but you don't know which West Virginia team you're going to get. And so with that being said, I'm going to safely pick Baylor to win. But if since this game being played at West Virginia, don't be too surprised. And now we have Nebraska taking on USC. Two teams desperately looking for another win. Because Nebraska, last time we saw them, they looked really not that good. I mean, they're coming off of losses towards UCLA. They lost to Ohio State, which that game was close. And then I know they had a bye week last week, but they they're start they're starting to fall off a little bit, like Matt Rhule teams have normally done. But USC on the other hand, yeah, you blew up the Pac-12 for this, for them to lay an egg. Now I know last time we saw them, they had a win over Rutgers, and then they turned around and lost to Washington. Yeah, they could say that USC's gamble to join the Big Ten is so far failing, but I ain't gonna have a clear answer on that 3 years from now. So with that being said, UCLA is at home, almost double-digit favorites. I am gonna lean towards the Trojans to win, but I will not be surprised if Nebraska pulls it off. And now we have an SEC matchup with Missouri taking on the South Carolina Gamecocks. South Carolina picked up a win over Vanderbilt, beating up on their 10,000 dogs. And while Missouri, they struggled against Oklahoma. They won the game, but they do not look like a ranked team. They're the definition of SEC frauds. Now, this game, South Carolina, they are playing really good football in my eyes. They're hot right now. I don't see the momentum slowing down, not one bit for South Carolina. And then we're going to have Rutgers taking on Maryland. Rutgers, after a losing streak, rebounded against Minnesota, where it was the defense that got the job done. And for Maryland, they ended up picking up a win. And for Maryland, I can't remember what they did last week. But anyway, they're at home, favored. This one could go in any direction. I was going to pick Rutgers to win this game, but it's at home. Home college games, they're different. I'm going with Maryland to win. And now we have Arizona State taking on Kansas State, with Arizona State coming off a tough loss last week. And Kansas State, well, they had a bye week last week, but last time we saw them, they lost to Houston, of all teams. Luckily for them, the Big 12 is a pretty much of a logjam conference this year. Everything just felt like it seems not what it seems to be true is not about the Big 12. So I don't have a full analyzation of that conference. But 9-point favorites, yeah, I could safely lean towards Kansas State to win this one. And now we have the number one ranked Oregon Ducks taking on the Wisconsin Badgers. And Oregon, they picked up the win over Maryland. I finally remember who they played. And Wisconsin, they're coming off a bye week. And oh boy, this one might not be fun. This one could be ugly. Oregon, I don't see a scenario where Wisconsin's winning this game. I'm sorry. Now we have Cincinnati Bearcats taking on Iowa State. And Cincinnati, I think they lost last week at home. And Iowa State, they lost on the road again, this time to Kansas. And to me, this one is going to be very, very interesting. Because Iowa State, they once had a clear path to the Big 12 title game. And now I feel like all things are falling apart for this school. So in this game, yeah, I'm going to roll with Iowa State to rebound. They should rebound in this one. But I will not be surprised if Cincinnati picks up. I won't be surprised if Cincinnati gives Iowa State their third straight loss. And now we have an in-state rivalry between the Wake Forest Demon Deacons and the Carolina Tar Heels. Wake Forest losing at home to California, where they scored 36 points. Only problem is that the defense gave up 46. Carolina, they're coming off a bye week where last time we saw them, they had two of their best games of the season, blowing out Virginia on the road and then blowing out Florida State on the road, which the latter is not that hard to do. And now that they're back at home, I feel like this team, ever since the death of their player who had cancer, they've been playing very inspired football, and it's showing because you would think during their 4-game losing streak, this team looks dead in the river, but now they're back inspired. Offense is playing well, defense stepping up. This team has a lot of heart. Now in this game, I do not expect defense to show up at all. This one's going to be a very, very high scoring game. I'm going to lean towards Carolina because they're at home and because I'm biased towards them. But Wake Forest, I expect them to make this a very, very close game. And now we have Kansas Jayhawks taking on BYU. Kansas winning against Iowa State last week at home, aka Kansas City. And for the BYU Cougars, they escaped on the road, winning the Holy War over Utah in a game in which BYU did not look all that great in. But hey, they got the job done. That's what matters. And right now, they're the school that has the clear path to the Big 12 title game. So in this game, yeah, they're actually only giving BYU 3 points. I'm gonna go ahead and pick them to win, but I do think Kansas will put up a lot of points in this one. And last but not least, our game of the week. We have the Tennessee Volunteers taking on the Georgia Bulldogs. Tennessee taking care of things over Mississippi State. Again, not that hard to do. But Georgia, what happened? I mean, granted, the weather was bad against Ole Miss, but oh boy, Carson Beck does not look good at all. What was supposed to be a possible top 10 draft pick coming out, he's now looking at a day 3 pick at best, undrafted free agent at worst. But Georgia's coming off a loss. They are giving them 10 points in this game. That's really shocking. I expect this game to be very, very low scoring. I'm not expecting a lot of points in this one. I think the defenses are going to rule the day. Tennessee got one of the best defenses in the SEC. And Georgia, although their defense has been not the same as what typical Georgia has been, but I still think they're a good quality unit. And with this game being played in Georgia, I'm going to give the slight edge to the Bulldogs to win this game. And that concludes my college football predictions for Week 12. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Gamble safely, and I'll see you next time.